like say something and then 5 minutes later you're genuinely questioning if you saying that you thought it was ridiculous means that the thing becomes suddenly possible? And now I'm not saying that he's still in the hunt to win a 5th driver's title on the trot. That would take some kind of divine intervention, but kia ora, I'm Kimmy, I talk F1 in the world's 2nd worst accent, and it's time to draw some conclusions from the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. As you can probably see, I have moved into my actual office rather than taking over a space just off the living room. But unfortunately what that means is that I have road noise, so fingers crossed I should be able to scrub all of that out. If not, this will be staying in the video. I am working on a solution for that. It just requires hanging up like a moving blanket as some sound dampening. Anyway, Baku, one of my favourite tracks. It's weird, it's awkward, and generally it puts out when it comes to fun on Sundays. Some of the most iconic moments in modern Formula One have happened around the circuit. I Am Stupid, Red Bull teammate on teammate violence, Max's tyre failing in catastrophic and spectacular fashion back in 2021, Ricciardo's triple overtake on his way to win from 10th on the grid, Sebastian Vettel having a temper tantrum in that same race and deliberately driving into Lewis Hamilton under safety car. When I get around to doing a video I've had on the cards for quite a while now, this circuit is going to make my life a little bit difficult. But let's be real here, 2025 was not one of the classics. The marathon qualifying session, however, well, that was what it was, and I hope you all made it through without either having a heart attack or wanting to defenestrate yourself. The tension of the Grand Prix itself, however, rather than coming from what everyone expected, i.e. red flags and safety cars, pretty much entirely hinged on 2 guys, Liam Lawson and Carlos Sainz. Oh my god, I hear you all say, she's actually going to talk about Lawson, and yeah, I am, because he genuinely impressed me this weekend, and he cemented my opinion that Red Bull should keep their status quo and retain all of their drivers in their current teams for the 2026 season. And as much as I'm fed up with having to dodge spoilers every Monday thanks to the whole Kiwi on the grid factor and this country's obsession with only caring about things when we can make it all about us, Lawson's steady improvement and clear ability to learn and grow since his demotion, I think, says he deserves to stick around. And there's a couple of things that I've picked up on since the summer break that I think will make or break his career, but at the moment, they sure seem to be making it. And both of those things remind me a whole lot of Max Verstappen. Whoa, 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 I am not comparing the guy to one of the goats here, let me be clear. But Liam Lawson's scrappiness and dogged determination not to give up a corner, combined with the fact that he seems to be learning more and more about how to leverage knowledge of the rules and driving guidelines to justify his decisions in race, has shades of Max about it. And drawing those lines in the sand very likely contributed to his ability to hold up the pack for as long as he did this weekend, because that was an epic DRS train he had going on behind him at the end there, and there were plenty of points throughout the race where he was holding up someone more highly rated and in a quicker car. Was it really pace that was stopping them from trying for the overtake, or was it a bit of trepidation about how Lawson would defend the corner and not wanting to risk a DNF for the sake of a couple of points? I would genuinely love to know the answer to that. Although with Yuki, I think that was more about him playing the long game and recognising that being second in the DRS train was actually probably benefiting him at that point. So yeah, conclusion number 1, Red Bull should hold where they are. Lindblad needs another year of F2 at least, and Laurent Mekies needs to pull the handbrake on that one. That is, if Helmut Marko hasn't already planted his foot to the floor. Which, you know, word on the street and all that. Conclusion number 2 is about the other driver who was keeping everyone's attention, and that old classic of how fans of one half of an F1 driver pairing love to go on the internet and just say stuff. This weekend, there's a bit of a narrative in certain parts of the F1 fan base. People have been very vocal about Alex Albon being the one who was more deserving, first of the F2 in quali and then subsequently the podium. Now obviously the argument that a lot of people have been making here is that Albon has been in the trenches with Williams for years now. He's been putting in excellent performances, making very few errors, and is absolutely obliterating Sainz in the points. Which would be a good argument if this was a debate about team orders or strategic choices that led to the end result, which of course it isn't. So rather than be happy for Sainz and congratulate him on an excellent performance both in qualifying and in the race, there's specific Alex fans who would rather loudly and in very bad faith complain and call favouritism and completely fail to acknowledge that Alex missed his opportunity because he crashed in Q1. Heck, I'm sure there's some stands out there who are claiming sabotage because the idea of their fave making an error is inconceivable. It is entirely possible for two things to be true at once. Alex has put in a lot of hard work, has been driving at a very high level, and absolutely deserves to stand on the podium at some point. Carlos also has been putting in a lot of hard work, if you believe the official lines from JV, which I do tend to do, I'll be honest. Has had some pretty bad luck this year, and not all of that points deficit is because of his own mistakes, and made the most of an opportunity when it arose, then kept his head and converted it. Being mad that Carlos Sainz got a podium and your guy didn't because he crashed in quali is honestly one of the dumbest takes I think I've ever heard. In drawing a conclusion to this, I'm going to cast all of our minds back to the previous 4 years, where Sainz was on that same hamster wheel just with a specific subset of Charles Leclerc fans. There's few drivers out there who people just love to hate, and unfortunately for Carlos, despite appearing to be one of the most universally liked guys in the paddock, he's one of the ones people genuinely like to make being a hater of their entire personality. I thought that that would change with his switch to Williams, but boy was I wrong, and I hate to imagine what level of vitriol we'd be seeing if the intra-team fight were a little bit closer, or God forbid the other way around. Now, before I get into the last conclusion, as always, a thank you to my patrons, and a quick reminder to please consider subscribing to this channel, which is free, and click that like button if you're enjoying this video so that YouTube is more likely to show you more of them in the future. If you would like to subscribe to my Patreon, then the link is down in the description and it is here on screen. It's very much a general support kind of thing, although you do get access to my big self-calculating championship table if you'd like to play around with something that's relevant to my final conclusion. Yep, people are genuinely asking if Max can win this thing, and honestly, I mean, sure, mathematically, but the recency bias here is real. That's not the conclusion though. It's kind of a follow-up to one of Tuesday's burning questions, and that is that Red Bull has probably made enough of a turnaround in a very, very short space of time to genuinely mount a challenge for second in the Constructors' Championship. Which, to be fair, I think is probably a pretty heavily weighted KPI in Laurent Mekies' performance goals. Now that's pure speculation, but the vibe I get is that that's the target and it's realistic. There's a points gap of 14 to Ferrari and 18 to Mercedes. Both Merc and Ferrari have struggled to get any kind of consistency over the last few rounds, whereas Red Bull and specifically Max have been on the podium in all of the first 3 Grand Prix following the summer break. Even with Yuki failing to score in Italy and picking up the scraps in the Netherlands, Red Bull has taken home a whopping 80 points in the last 3 rounds compared to Mercedes 54 and Ferrari's measly 26, thanks in part to that double DNF in Zandvoort. And with Max having such dominant victories in both Monza and Baku, circuits where he's not been that quick at in the past, I think that the whole Red Bull is never quick in Singapore thing might not be so relevant this year. And I mean, sure, Lando won by a country mile last season, but Max still came in second in Singapore in 2024, so don't write off a 3rd victory in a row. And as much as I do think that the idea of Max pipping the McLarens at the post is still a bit of a ridiculous long shot, mate, I've been putting in a bunch of numbers into that spreadsheet to see what happens, and there are a lot of permutations where Max wins, and it doesn't require McLaren to completely bottle it every weekend until Abu Dhabi. So yeah, anyway, that's my 3 conclusions from the 2025 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. What did you get out of it? Clearly the curse of the Spaniards can only be lifted from one driver at a time, but what about Aston Martin's woes, and do you think they'll come back next time out in a much lower speed circuit? Are you relieved Ollie Behrman made it through the weekend without taking a hit, with penalty points at least? I can't say the same about taking a hit from Alex Albon. And are you so incredibly baffled by Oscar Piastri's absolute disaster class of a weekend that you're genuinely starting to think that that really, really dumb conspiracy theory of mine about McLaren trying to make the championship more interesting might just hold some weight? Chat about it in the comments. Thanks once again to my patrons, and a reminder that if you'd like to access that calculating version of my championship table, then you can either subscribe or you can purchase access to the post as a one-off. And I'm really sorry that the one-off purchase is double that of my cheapest subscription tier. That's just the minimum that Patreon would allow me to set it at without making it free for anyone to nick all of the formula and formatting I spent ages working on. So yeah, please don't go on, post it on Reddit or something, because I genuinely did spend a lot of time on that thing. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. Ka kite. I'll see you next time.